54 days? Is it going to be 54 days? Or is it going to be a year and 54 days? Or is it going to be 54 days for some teams and never for other teams in 2020? That seems to be some of the reporting that we're getting back from various college campuses in regards to the forecast for 2020 college football season. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, coming your way on a Sunday night, a little bit later than usual. Spent some quality time with my boy tonight. So we come your way at midnight Eastern time on technically Monday morning. We've got 8 on the line. We expect many more than that. Let people know that we're here. Do that on a regular basis anyway. Just let people know that we're here to talk college football, and we do it. It's our aim and our goal. I'm not going to say that we do it at this point better than anyone, but that's the mission. That's the mission, to one day do it better than anyone. Best discussion, debate, and analysis right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Again, 18 on the line. Get out there on social media and share the videos. Like the videos. That's key. If you do nothing else, at least like the videos. And, of course, subscribe right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. That way you know when we're going live. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
RK Logan, what's up, brother?
Hey, what's going on, man?
What's up, man? I got a hold of you a little early, but I had to make sure I had the right number because, your number really doesn't flash out on the show.
You actually don't have the right number, but that's okay. We'll take it this one time.
Talk offline and get that set straight.
What's going on tonight?
Oh, man, it's awesome to be on. You're doing a late show, man. Where are you located at? Because I'm in Colorado, and Eastern time, I'm 2 hours ahead on Eastern time, so it's midnight over there.
Hurricane Logan, I was working until 5:30 in the morning last night. So any reference to time does not register with me.
Hey, I understand that, man. I got you.
So what's going on?
I mean, you know me. I'm a Hurricane fan. I want to talk about. I always want to talk about my Canes, and I think you're a very realistic person who can speak about us and not be delusional. And if there's one thing that I've truly always wondered about you, what is your record prediction for the Miami Hurricanes? Like, truly, what do you think our record's going to be at the end of the year? Like an honest prediction.
Last year, I predicted the record at 8-4. So I'm going to make predictions for every team. I do every year. I've been doing it since I was like 9 years old. So rest assured, I will be making official predictions for everyone. I can throw out a record right now, but it's not going to be my final official prediction.
So I'm asking you for what you think Miami will end the season on, and you're telling me you can't give me what you think we're going to do?
I'm telling you that I make a final prediction on every team in college football, at least in the Power 5. I don't do that in June or July.
Okay.
I can throw you out a record. It's not going to be I don't want people telling me, at the end of the season, Mark, you were wrong because I was watching you on July,
of course,
whatever it is, 5th or 6th. And you said Miami was going to go 2-10. They didn't go 2-10. And I'm going to say, no, that wasn't my official prediction. My official prediction was 9-3, and they went 9-3.
Right. So when do you usually put out your predictions?
Oh, about a week or two before the season starts, or that's usually the intent. And then it turns out to be like the night before, and then I've got to get them out. So I have a big live stream like I do right here, and I unveil the big board and I run through all the predictions. But I think it's pretty safe, not safe to say that, shoot, this team went 6-7 last year. It's not safe to say, but
they should do it again.
But based on the talent on the field and based on the schedule, I think they're going to go probably 8-4.
I think that's pretty, honestly, logically speaking, I think that's fair. But I'd love to hear who the 4 teams that we lose to, besides maybe the team in the ACC championship and the big bowl game if we get there, because I think those would be our 2 losses 100%, because Miami, just like Georgia, can never execute the big game,
Well, for anybody who's predicting 8-4, you're not touching an ACC championship game or a bowl game because you play 12 regular season games.
True. But I don't want to be delusional, but I do have very positive hopes. But if I were to sit here and tell you how I feel about my Canes, I think we may lose a sleeper on the regular season, and then if worse comes to worse, we're going to lose the ACC championship game, which is most likely going to be Clemson, and then we might lose a big bowl game. I'm not saying I want it to go that way, but just most Cane fans aren't realistic, and I'm trying to be realistic and just not be delusional, and I think that's what I think the worst case scenario would be, you know. But we haven't seen anything on the field. It's always been talk with the Canes. So, you know, 8-4 I can agree with because of how things have been in the past for so long. Like, for so long. I'm talking not just a couple of years. This has been like 15 years of the same stuff that we all expect, and we make changes, and oh, wow, here we go again. But I can definitely understand why you can say that.
Yeah, so last year I made the statement when I made my prediction that Florida had slightly better talent, slightly. And obviously we know that game went right down to the wire.
Yeah, I think we did really good with Florida. I think if Brad Kaya was our quarterback, because I was at the West Virginia screen.
Yep.
I was at the West Virginia game, like screaming, one more game, one more year. I just wanted one more year with Brad Kaya, or even like a Stephen Morris, you know, somebody who was experienced and could throw that laser and see the field and get to his receivers. I think the Florida game would have been much more different. But I think from a quarterback perspective, that was the biggest problem, mostly because of the experience. And then obviously offensive play calling didn't help. But the play calling was the first season, you know, and you got to see what you got to saw out of Miami offense that came from Mark Briggs to Dan Enos. So, you know, it was really difficult to make that judgment call. But
So back to my prediction, Hurricane Logan. What I was starting to say is that last year I looked at the talent on the team. Of course, I considered that you had a first-year head coach. I considered, of course, the schedule that I thought was pretty weak last year. I forget where I ranked it. I rank all the schedules. Typically, I didn't do it this offseason, but I typically rank all the schedules, and it was a lowly ranked schedule, and it was actually tougher last year because of Florida than it is this year. So last year, I looked at the schedule versus the Miami talent, considering a first-year coaching staff, and thought, okay, Florida's better, but not by much. They could win that game, but I would give them a 35 to 40% chance, something like that, of winning in a neutral site against Florida. I thought Florida State had very comparable talent. And then I thought, Miami's better than clearly better than everybody else on the schedule. So even if they lose to the two teams that have somewhat the same talent, or in Florida's case, probably a little bit better, not much, a little bit better, they go 10-2.
I agree with you so much.
But I said they're going to trip up two other times just because they will, and I picked them to go 8-4, and I even underestimated how many times they're going to trip up. And I find it interesting that they lose 2 consecutive years to the team that wins the division. So on the same field, on the same day or night, they prove that they're better than the team that wins the division, but then they still go out and blow other games.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting a little bit more of that, but not to the degree that we saw it last year.
The reason I'm expecting more personally is because our biggest problem has been addressed and changed. You know, we do have a coordinator at the offensive level who is statistically proven. He is statistically proven. You know, he's not Dan Enos. If anybody goes back on Dan Enos' records as a coach and stuff like that, he's nowhere near on the level that Rhett Lashley was, because Rhett Lashley has the numbers to speak for itself. And he may have been in a weaker division and weaker talent, but now he's in. Now I wouldn't really say the ACC is better than where he came from, but I would say that the talent that he has is much better than what he had to work with. So when you mix that in with having a star quarterback who is pretty proven by the numbers, you know, honestly, pretty proven by the numbers, and I'm kind of sold on it. I'm not like sold and like, yo, we're going to win it all this year, because that's, I think, what a lot of Miami fans are doing. But I think we have a much more positive year than usual coming up. You know, at least 9 wins. I think we have at least 9 wins in our book, and we should. And if there's not 9 wins out of this season, then, you know, it's the athletic department's responsibility to make those adjustments and fire or change staff levels that, you need to make those changes, because that's been the biggest problem with Miami is they never do that because they're so sold on money. They're all about themselves, and that's the ugly truth. But I mean, when do you ever hear about Miami making a hire that's like, holy smokes, they hired that guy? Al Golden was nothing to be surprised about. He came from Temple, and Manny Diaz was a great defensive coordinator, but he also came from Temple. And then you got Mark Richt, who was going to come to Miami and pretty much retire. That's what he did. We need to either execute the season and do what everyone's expecting, because I think from the Miami Hurricane fan base, there's a lot of big expectations, and we need to put that on the field. And if we don't do it, then it's going to really, really fall on people. Need to wake up and say, you know what? There's something going on at the higher level, and they need to be responsible and make those changes.
Well, I think you make a good point about Rhett Lashlee working this season with the best quarterback that he's ever worked with. So he's had
probably the best
stops
quarterback that came out of Miami in a long time.
Stanford, Arkansas State, Auburn, UConn, SMU. So the best quarterback he's worked with would either be Shane Buechele at SMU, who started at Texas, who's a pretty good player, but doesn't have the dynamic skills that De'Ara King, and at Auburn, Nick Marshall was really good. He was a really good option quarterback, really good triple option guy that led a great rushing attack, but was not a passer at all. So here's the best player at the position Rhett Lashlee's ever coached at the collegiate level. Yep.
And going to even a bigger perspective, I hope there's college football this season. Honestly, I really hope there is college football this season, because I don't know about you or anybody else in the chat, but I look forward to seeing Mike Haynes play every year. Even though I'm telling you, this is a Hurricane fan, it's always a disappointment, and it's the most stressful thing I ever deal with when I get to see them play. And I look forward to every Saturday, and it's a disgrace and a letdown. And it's just like damn, I waited a year for this. Are you kidding me? All this talk on Twitter, these call-in shows that we do, whether it's you or other Miami Hurricane YouTubers, and this is what I get to see on the field. I don't want to see that on the field. I want to see what should be on the field. And from the changes that we've made and the talent that we have, we need to make it happen. And if we don't, people need to take responsibility and make changes, big changes. And the biggest thing is, I personally don't think that's going to happen. I do not think that's going to happen, because it's never been that way at Miami. It goes back to Larry Coker. When Larry Coker got hired, let's look way back when Larry Coker got hired. Did Larry Coker, was that seriously his team? Was he the reason that team was such a blowout team and they won the championship? That wasn't all due to Larry Coker, man. Those dudes on, 30 for 30, they said that they ran the practices. They literally said that Larry Coker was a chaperone, and it's not the same way now, because I can't explain why it's not the same way now, but I mean, looking into that, that's never going to happen again. That's never going to happen again, We're not going to sit there and have so much talent to where when we hire a coaching staff, whether it be a head coach, an offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator, it's never going to be to where we have so much talent that we can just do it ourselves, because the players are so player-led, because I think that's a problem, and that comes into recruiting. You need to get people who are player-led and want to develop this team and be there for the team, and they don't want to leave their sophomore year because they know they can go to the NFL and make money,
Well, Larry Coker obviously benefited from Butch Davis, and Butch Davis was a very successful and very strong personality and a highly successful coach, and he recruited a lot of alpha dogs, so they knew the system and they knew what to do, and they had a pretty mature and confident team, in addition to one of the most talented teams ever. So once Coker took over, he just stayed out of the way and tried not to screw it up.
I agree. I do agree with you, but I can tell you one thing right now. With the way this fan base is and what we're expecting, if Miami, can you imagine if Miami wins, even what you're saying, realistically, like as an outsider who's not a Miami fan, you're saying eight wins. The Miami fan base, if we win 8 games and we lose the rest or whatever it may be, it's not going to be good because that's not what we're expecting. Personally, I'm not even expecting it because I'm so invested in this team. You know, I'm all about my Hurricanes, dude. Like, I never, ever am trying to sit there and be that delusional Miami Hurricane fan because they exist 15 years and beyond, you know. But I personally, when you look at the changes that were made on the staff and from a player standpoint, we have 2 of the best defensive ends in the country.
Sure.
You know, there's no way that we can sit here and win 8 or 9 games. You know, we have to be better than that. 8 or 9 games is okay. But our fan base, you know how our fan base is. Every year they sit there and they cry to fire people. That's the first thing. Dude, they can never sit there and look at the realistic facts and be like, you know what? It is what it is. This is what really happened. As soon as we start losing games, they want to fire somebody. It's always fire this, fire that. And you wonder why we're such in a setback because when you sit there and you get a different leader, you have a whole nother system. And you got a whole different recruiting style, and you get a whole nother system that you have to get recruits to fit that system, you know? So I think what we need to do is we need to, even if this year's rough, and by rough I mean 8 or 9 wins, because I think that's rough because of the talent and stuff, but we need to stick with Manny Diaz, we need to stick with our staff, and we need to let them get settled in and let kids who look at this university who are sophomores or juniors in high school and let them say, you know what? Those guys are going to be there for the long run, and they're going to want to come here if we, as a fan base and, you know, so on and so forth, can sit there and hold our staff and keep them. You know, I don't think there's anybody on our staff that we need to sit there and say, hey, this guy needs to go now. He needs to go right now, you know? And if we
All
do
right,
something
Hurricane. All right, Logan, I appreciate it. We've been on for quite a while. I got quite a few other calls coming in.
All right, man. You have a good night.
I appreciate it. All right. Mark Rogers, TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, how's it going, Mark?
Good. Who's on the line?
It's RC in the 305 here.
Hey, RC.
Was hearing a little bit of Hurricane football talk along with other college football, so I just wanted to call in real quick.
Yeah. Let me, real quick, before you get revved up, finish my point that I was trying to get across to Hurricane Logan is that if you look at the schedule for Miami, it's not a difficult schedule. It's a more talented team for Miami than everybody you play, and you're replacing Florida with a Michigan State team that's going to be their worst team since like 06 or 07. Miami's roughly the 20th best team in the country, let's say, something in that range in terms of talent. They should go 12-0 against that schedule. They should go 12-0 with North Carolina being the best team that they play. All right, RC, go to it.
Well, you know, Mark, when you put things on paper, and we're all guilty of it, when you put things on paper, everything, for the most part, it needs to have a consensus. And that being said, whether you're a Hurricane fan or not, if you follow recruiting, if you follow the changes that have been made, yeah, everything looks like that's what they should do. They should be 12-0, 11-1 at worst. You know, we can all write those things down, but the transition of a new offensive staff and the inability to have these kids for spring ball is going to either impact us in a very positive way or it's going to be a very negative situation. Playing fast. We have the benefit in South Florida. These kids are still working out on their own. Now they're on campus. But playing fast, you've got to be in tremendous shape. It's not just the skilled players. It's that offensive line. It's those quarterbacks. It's everybody together playing at that tempo. And I think it's very difficult to just think that in 4 weeks, 6 weeks when practice starts, they're going to be able to click at that level without having the spring. And without a spring, there's a lot of things that you work on that you're able to get some level of chemistry between quarterbacks and receivers. quarterback in the offensive line. So offensively alone, there's so much that we don't know. There's so much uncertainty that to think that we can go 12-0 just on talent, I think it's ridiculous. We have never had an issue with talent, Mark. And I know that we have put a lot of guys in the league in the last 10 years on the offensive side of the ball. But if I were to tell you that we've got more offensive linemen drafted in the last 10 years than Clemson, you'd be surprised. That's the truth. So our issue has been not being able to put things together as a whole, as a unit, especially offensively. And at this stage, there's so much unknown that I can't even tell you if we'll win 8 games. I have no idea. And that's if we have a full season, obviously. There's just too much unknown. And I don't mean to continue to throw this guy into the bus, but he's in a position that he really shouldn't be in. Manny Diaz was learning how to be a head coach at Temple. That was the perfect situation for him to learn how to be a head coach. No matter how much time you put in, and many moons ago was able to be a grad assistant at Florida State. Chuck Amato was in Bobby Bowden's office and was his right hand. But when he went back to his alma mater to be the head coach at NC State, it took a while for him to know how to be a head coach. And it was a tough transition. It's never easy. And to think that this guy's going to be able to automatically, in year 1, year 2, be successful and find himself, man, I can't put my money down on that, Mark.
So you made the comment at one point when you were talking about that talent's not been an issue. So when you say talent's not been an issue, to what degree are you expecting to win? So if you're saying in going, so the team hasn't generally gone even as good as 8-4 and 9-3 for the most part over the last 15 years. And that's about generally where I see the talent has been recently. They should be winning a little bit more, but they're not on par with the elite programs of the country. So when you say talent's not an issue, put that a little bit more into context.
More so with the ACC and the Coastal, it hasn't been an issue.
Agreed. Yes.
There's more talent there across the board than most of the teams in the Coastal. And that's been the case for a while now. But
absolutely.
Unfortunately, when you look at the degree of developing players, you either have consistency and cohesiveness with your teaching or you don't. The great programs that you're mentioning, the upper echelon now, the true blue bloods, what do they all have? For the most part, they have consistency on the offensive end. And if they don't, they're bringing in young coaches, young teachers that are coming from the same cloth, so to speak. So the transition is easier because what is expected and what you're teaching is pretty much the same. And the old adage of keeping it simple, stupid, is utilized in those programs. And they're able to set a standard, and those kids live up to it. And we're not even close to being it. We're behind. Everyone else in college football has gone to this spread offense, being able to put people in space, great athletes in space, and letting them do what they do best, which is run. And finally, in 2020, Miami's finally caught up. But it's not a light switch. You just can't turn it on and think we're going to go ahead and be 12-0, be 11-0. That's just not going to happen. And the teachers that we've had here in the past, the coaches we've had in the past, it's been a revolving door. So until you get that consistency, let's go ahead and throw some fairy dust on this situation. Let's say we do go 12-0. Next year we got a problem because Rhett Lashley won't be around. He'll be a head coach somewhere. And a guy like Rob Likens that was brought over from Arizona State, who's taught this office before, is a product of this office for the most part with his coaching in the last 10 years. He's a guy that hopefully can step right in and be your offense coordinator if Lashley does go. But then again, you're looking at having continuity. And in college football today, the programs that do the best job on Saturdays, yeah, they have the best talent, no doubt, but they have great teachers. And either the players in practice earn the opportunity to play or they don't. Bama has tons of kids every year. They lose to 4 or 5 kids that are transferring. And there are 4 and 5 star kids. Why are they transferring? because honestly, they're not living up to the expectations that they're supposed to be, and they're not producing. And that's where we're at here in Miami. We haven't had good teachers. When we've had good talent, we had a 5-star kid years ago who was the #1 corner, Tracy Howard, out of Miramar High School, and he was a total flop because he wasn't taught the right way. He wasn't raised the right way. Well, he wasn't developed. And you got a kid that had talent, had a little experience in the NFL, but he wasn't developed correctly, and that's what Miami's lacking. So if you're a 5-star kid and you're a high 4-star kid, and Ohio State and let's say Alabama and Miami, those are your top 3 schools. What school's putting most of the kids in the NFL? Which one develops the kids the best? And it's not Miami. And I hate to say that, but from what we've seen the last 14, 15 years, that's who we are. So we've got to get better coaches. And Blake James to hire Manny Diaz was a huge mistake. You've got a guy in Mario Cristobal that had already cut his teeth, had already taken a program. Florida International was the absolute worst program a young head coach could inherit. They had, based on NC2A violations, I think they had 38 scholarships his first 2 years. The rest were walk-ups because they were hit so hard with penalties and sanctions. So that guy was able to cut his teeth there. I mean, he didn't win a ton of games early on, but eventually he changed the culture. And what you need here is a guy who's been a byproduct of that culture. Even if it was way back with Jimmy, that culture can still win you games. That culture can still win you championships. And I think Ed Reed put it best. It's all about internal accountability. You know, if every brother is their brother's keeper, and there's a high standard, and you're killing each other on Green Tree, Saturdays are a breeze. And that attracts more and more of the top-tier players. The top 4 and 5 stars don't want to come. Well, when you get that type of competition day out, your product on Saturdays, Mark, it's always going to be better. But until we get that right guy as the head coach, honestly, we're just spinning our wheels, to be honest with you.
I hear you, RC. So you don't think Manny Diaz is the guy?
I don't. I really don't. I think he's got so much to learn.
Makes sense.
If you take a snapshot.
Yep.
If you take a snapshot as a first-year head coach, one play, one decision that could have turned your whole season around. Okay, it's 4th and 17 at Chapel Hill. And you're looking at your team. We're on defense. And you're looking at a young quarterback who can sling it really well. And the momentum is all with North Carolina. And he's got 3 timeouts. And all he's got to do is take a timeout, let everybody relax, make sure we're all on the same page, make sure we know what they're probably going to run, and then defend it. And he's just watching the game. He's waiting for his young defensive coordinator to do his job. There are times where you cannot wait. There are times where you, as the head coach, the buck stops with you. The ends and ends with you. You've got to take control of that moment of the game. You've got to take them there mentally. And for him not to do that, I mean, it's inexcusable. I mean, that to me was like, after that play, I knew we were going to have a horrible season. I just knew it. Because that is the epitome of not being a good teacher. That is the epitome of not being able to control all the facets of a program as the head coach. It's a tough damn job. And if you don't do a good job of managing everything at once, you can't be that guy. It's a lot easier, Mark, to just be the offense coordinator, the defensive coordinator. But when everything lies on your shoulders, you've got to be able to balance it all, but yet still control the whole operation. And that snapshot to me told me the whole season. And where were we going to be? I'm not telling you Mario Cristobal would have been better at it, but he's more prepared for it. And he's lost a couple of games that Oregon he shouldn't have. Every coach has. But when it's your first year and you had Florida beat and you couldn't go ahead and finish them off, you couldn't have a kicker that was able to kick a 35-yard field goal. You don't have someone that can do that. I mean, that's just going to fall on you. And as we saw throughout the year, the level of players not being held accountable is ridiculous.
Good points. I'm Manny Diaz. Now, Mario Cristobal obviously had FBS head coaching experience prior to going to Oregon, and he has shown thus far from a recruiting standpoint and from a game management standpoint that he's been up to the challenge there at Oregon. JRC, anything else?
I think Mario did a fantastic job of hiring the right guys around him, too, Mark. And you could not put a value on that. And for whatever reason here in Miami, there's limited resources or whatever, and they're not able to give you a very well-funded, comprehensive staff. And if you want to have a chance with the big boys, you got to have great teachers. Mark, take care. Let's hopefully have college football in a couple of weeks.
I know it. I'm with you. Appreciate the call. 860-325-3687. 860-325-3687. Would love to hear from you. Okay. I posted the comment from Sigmund Sandifer, who asked something to the effect of big time, big splash hires not working out. And so I've listed, while I was listening to RC, listed a number of coaches that I would consider to be big splash hires in recent years. So Dabo Swinney obviously wasn't a big splash hire. He has become a legend now, but not a big splash hire as a wide receiver coach, being elevated to head coach. Nick Saban, big hire. He had been an NFL head coach. He won a national championship at LSU. That's a splash hire. Urban Meyer, splash hire. Won 2 national championships at Florida. Hired at Ohio State. Chip Kelly won huge at Oregon. Splash hire at UCLA. Jimbo Fisher, who's won a national championship and multiple ACC championships, going to Texas A&M as the highest paid coach in college football. Splash hire. Jim Harbaugh, splash hire. So those are the guys that I've thought of. So obviously Saban worked out in spades. Maybe the greatest coach in history. Urban Meyer worked out, splash hire. Jimbo, the jury's still out. Harbaugh, the jury's still out, but to date has not necessarily worked out. And Chip Kelly, disaster of a splash hire thus far through 2 seasons, and there doesn't appear to be much hope there. If you can think of anybody else that you would consider to be a splash hire, those are the ones that I came up with. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
MSC #1 fan.
Hey, how's it going tonight?
Good. Do you watch Post Scoop on the U?
I don't. I had him on a couple nights ago because he had been much requested and recommended and did a fine job for us, but I've never watched his channel. No. I don't watch anybody's channels I just don't find the time to watch too many. But if I watch anybody, I'll see a little Pigskin Pete and I'll see a little Uncle Lou.
Yep. I was watching his live stream with another guy.
Yep.
And I asked him about the Michigan State Miami series. And I think he said that Marquette Tampania didn't accomplish much. I was like, are you serious? I mean, I get the last 4 seasons, but before that, we were in the top 10, top 15.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I consider Mark Antonio to be one of the best coaches in college football.
He has to be up there. I mean, part of the exclusive live stream this Thursday?
We like to make that available to as many people as possible. So certainly we'll put you down, MSU #1 fan, but we'll see.
All right.
So you
Okay.
can certainly be available, and you can certainly be listening in the audience. But we'll have to wait and see, because I'm trying to get as many people funneled through as possible. But I will put you down.
All right.
And as soon as I get off here, I'm going to go into my little Mark Antonio dissertation.
Yeah. All right. I have Michigan State 7-5 as of right now.
7-5. That would be quite an accomplishment.
His first year head coach, we're gonna let him get to a bowl game, maybe. Let him build off the confidence and see what he can do.
They've got a tough schedule.
They do.
They don't have a
question.
Miami schedule. They've got a Big Ten
No.
schedule.
It ain't no cupcake either.
No.
Not even Rutgers is a cupcake. You know,
Well,
not this year.
you seem to be higher on Rutgers than the rest of the world.
Yeah, they got that Greg Schiano back.
Well, sure. Yeah, but it's going to take him some time.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I like college football. There's always upset. I hate being called the little brother.
All right. Anything else on your mind, MSU #1 fan?
Nope, I'm not. Give off to let other people call in.
Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Yep, alright. Yep, you too.
So MSU #1 fan has Michigan State at 7-5. That's a bit rich for me. They are going to struggle this year. Mark Antonio, of course, didn't have necessarily the most sterling of endings at Michigan State. He did win his final game, but amidst all the controversy that the program was under at the time and the athletic department as a whole. But Mark Antonio, what he accomplished at Michigan State, my goodness. For those of you who have only been watching college football for 10 years and consider Michigan State to be a power, Michigan State was not a power. Not a Big Ten power, a nothing power. They were a marginal football program forever. Go back to the mid to late 60s on, and Michigan State had really 2 seasons between the 70s and when Mark Antonio took over in 2007 that were of any relevance. One would be 1987, when they won the Big Ten and won the Rose Bowl, and in 1999 when they finished at 10-2 and top 10 in the country. Go through Michigan State records from the mid-70s up until Mark Antonio took over, and you're going to see 5-6, 6-5, 7-4, on and on and on when they played 11-game schedules. Marginal football program. Could barely make it to bowl games most of the time. Mark Antonio took over, and within 3 years, Big Ten championship in 2010. Another Big Ten championship with a Rose Bowl win in 2012. Another Big Ten championship with a Rose Bowl win in 2013 and a Cotton Bowl win in 2014, and another top 10 finish. 4 top 10 finishes, major bowl victories, Cotton Bowl, Rose Bowl, beat Georgia in a bowl game in the Outback Bowl, 10-11 win seasons, college football playoff in 2015. Then it started to become unraveled, but between 2009 and 15, for those 7 seasons, Michigan State football was as good as just about anybody. All right, here we go.
The call will start in a minute.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, there's NBA fan.
Hey, how's it going tonight?
It's going pretty good. So I just had 2 points I wanted to talk to you about.
Okay.
So one of them
one of them is it's just about just cornerbacks last year. I've been hearing a lot of people from a lot of national media sites saying that Derek Stingley was by far the best cornerback last year. And while I think that he has great potential, he can be like an all-time great defensive back. I don't think he was better, like miles away better than Jeff Okudah. And I just wanted to hear what you thought about that.
Well, I would like to know, first of all, you heard this from who?
Urban Meyer.
Urban Meyer said that Stingley was that much better than Okudah?
Urban Meyer class, what's it called, like the Big Noon? I just watched the video. I was so surprised. He's been leaning SEC heavy in his like takes.
Interesting. I can't say that I sat there and watched play-by-play to compare the two players. Obviously, I watched a lot of Ohio State and a lot of LSU, both of them. So I saw basically every Ohio State game, and I saw LSU play 9, 10, 11 times, probably more than that. I'm trying to think because I was just watching the LSU Florida game last night.
You were getting picked on in that game.
And he got picked on in that game. Exactly. That's what I was going to bring up. He did make a couple nice plays in the second half, in the fourth quarter in particular, when LSU took over. But yeah, he got picked on a little bit. I'm shocked that Derek Stingley in Urban Meyer's eyes would be that much better than a player that was the third pick in the NFL draft.
Yeah, I don't know. It might be because of like that all-encompassing value, like as a returner, and he had like more eye-popping raw numbers. Yeah, but I don't know. I just think Okudah should get more credit. And then my second question for you was just about the national top 5 quarterbacks, because I was watching Big Noon again, and then if you watch if you look up their list of the top 5 quarterbacks, of course they had Fields and Lawrence 1 and 2, but then Bo Nix was consistently in the top 5, along with what's the guy from Texas, Sam Ellinger, and they kept out a person like Tanner Morgan. I'm pretty high on Tanner Morgan, and then you got the quarterback from UNC. What's your just opinion on the top 5 quarterbacks coming into this year?
Well, I'll let you know that I typically do release an off-season top 10 list at every position, and so I should jump on that. I did do my top 5 quarterbacks in the SEC and top 5 quarterbacks in the Big Ten. All right, so the thing that you got to deal with when you're projecting for the next season is obviously you're taking into consideration what they've done to date. You know, take Bo Nix is a great example because he's coming off a true freshman season that was a bit rough at times. But you're also trying to project how good the player is going to be this next season. That's at least how I look at it. I also don't necessarily project stats, meaning the best player doesn't always produce the best stats. If they've got some changeover at wide receiver, if they've got a weak offensive line, if they have a conservative offense, whatever the case might be, take Drew Brees off the New Orleans Saints and put him on the worst offensive talent system in the NFL, and his numbers are going to suffer. So I rank players based on whom I truly believe to be, regardless of stats and the personnel around them, to be 1 through 10. Bo Nix being in the top 5, I've got a lot of hope for him. I think he's a gamer. I think he's a leader. I think he provides spark. I think he's a baller, but man, he has got to improve his throwing technique. He's way too wild as a passer at this point to be ranked that high. He missed a ton of throws and did not throw the ball well against any good opponents.
Yeah, I think to have him in the top 5 area, you gotta expect like an exponential jump. And I mean, they might have more intel or inside knowledge than we do. But I just think that's kind of asinine to predict him to make that catastrophic of a leap.
Especially for a kid that didn't have any spring practice.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And my last point would be, so I just don't like, so people are talking about how OSU's running backs are going to be worse and that in certain situations we probably, like, if we might not be able to rely on the run game based off us not having that dynamic runner or running back talent. But, like, just based off of how people are projecting our O-line to be, like, top 5 in the nation, how can they not rely on the running back to get, like, 5.5 yards to carry, which might not be dynamic, but it essentially equals out what a dynamic running back would produce. You know what I'm saying?
So I'm sorry, I missed the beginning of that. Your first phrase or so was jumbled up a little bit there. What team are you talking about?
Ohio State.
Oh, you're talking about the Buckeyes.
Right.
Yeah, so
Because it's like,
I do understand the concern at running back. I think they're capable at running back,
Right.
but they're trying to win a national championship. And there's not that guy. J.K. Dobbins obviously was just a beast last year. I've seen quite a bit of Trey Sermon. I like what I see. I'm surprised to hear that that Master Teague is apparently a much faster back than what he's shown on the field, that he actually could beat J.K. Dobbins in a race. That's what I've heard from Ohio State insiders, because he looks like a plotter, or at least he did last year.
Right.
Maybe he's just not learning, needs to read the holes better and read his cuts better. But I think they're deep there with Crowley, between Crowley, Chambers, Teague, and Sermon. They've got enough guys that have talent, but for them to make a national championship run, it would be not that they need a 1,500-yard back, but it would be obviously a big step in the right direction if one of those guys proved to be something close to that. And I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. And my last point, it would be about the OSU running back room too. It's like when it seems like we know they've had a lot of recruiting misses, and the running back room doesn't look how it would ideally from a recruiting standpoint. But at the end of the day, they have like 5 or 6 running backs, and then they brought 2 in this year. So how do you see the running back room situating itself over the next season or so?
So you want a projection to 2021?
Or that, sort of.
Yeah, I'm not really good at that. I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to give you much of a projection for 2021. Is this would be Sermon's final season, obviously, so he's out. The other 3 guys are still in play, and then of course these recruits, between Henderson and what's the other kid's name? They're bringing in 2 and Pryor. Yes, absolutely. Evan Pryor. So when you recruit at Ohio State's level, it's about quantity as much as it is about quality, in that we know that there will be misses. As you just mentioned, there will be 4- and 5-star misses. But if you recruit 2 guys, just like they did with Pryor and Henderson, the odds say that they might both turn out to be stars, but at least one of them should. So they should have their superstar in the backfield, and it's most likely, unless we see another level from Teague that we didn't see this past season, it's mostly likely going to be one of those 2 guys. There can continue to have tremendous depth with the other 3 guys. But I think one of those 2, if not both of them, are going to leapfrog what they currently have in the running back room in 2021. That's how I see it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. So I was wondering if there'd be just like attrition through transfer, or I don't know. They say it's kind of taboo to predict that, but yeah, that's just a thought that I was having. All right, thanks for letting me call up.
Absolutely. You have a good night. I appreciate the call.
All right, you too.
So, folks, we got a little YouTube channel here that we like to call the Voice of College Football. If I can talk tonight, the Voice of College Football. And please contribute in any way that you see fit. Like the videos, comment, also share the videos on social media, and subscribe, of course. We've got 36 on the line right now. I hope all of you are subscribed. That way you know to turn on the bell for the notifications to know when we're going live. And we go live almost every day at some point. We've got a Florida State live show that we bring you every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Ohio State and Miami, we bring you those live shows each and every week, but they have to float based on my schedule and others. And our call-in show here on Sunday nights and various times throughout the week. We've got some other very, very intriguing content announcements to make soon about some collaboration with some other college football folks. National Championship replays. If you're into rewriting history and giving a certain perspective on what national championship seasons could have looked like had other decisions been made, check out the videos that I posted on 1983, 84, 90, 91, and 2000 is coming out, or has it come out? Either came out today or is coming out tomorrow. I got to get on my scheduling format and college football playoff. We've got our SEC top 5 running backs, top 5 wide receivers, and defensive linemen coming out in the next few days as well. And it sounds like I need to release a top 10 quarterbacks video. That's what it sounds like. Bo Nix, number 3. Luke is telling us that there was a timeout called by Manny Diaz or possibly by North Carolina. That would make sense that they would call the timeout at 4th and 17 with a game on the line and needing to convert that kind of almost miracle type play. I should hold short of calling it a miracle, but 4th and 17 is converted what? Maybe 5% of the time. Mark Rogers TV, the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Hey, it's Rod Farber. Mark, how you doing?
Hey, Rod. What's going on?
Oh, not too much. Just appreciate you taking my call. Just wanted to talk a couple of things just real quick. Last time we talked, remember we talked about marketing and Adidas, and so I did the research.
Yeah.
And the last,
I didn't have much for you. That's for sure. Yeah. What you got?
Do what?
I said I didn't have much for you.
Gotcha. So I went all the way back to 2015, and only 4 Adidas teams have finished the regular season. After the bowl season. Okay. Only 4 teams have finished ranked, and that was Michigan in 2015, who were already getting ready to convert to Nike anyway. South Florida in 2016, Miami, and Mississippi State in 2017. No one has finished ranked since then, who are sponsored by Adidas. I know it sounds silly to some people, but I think marketing does matter in terms of recruiting. So anyway, one of the main reason I'm calling is I was having some discussions with some other friends this weekend about just talking college football, and we were talking about potential coaches going to new and how we're running out of big name coaches, both at the college level and the NFL. So my first question to you was, do you ever think Bob Stoops will return to college?
He's a relatively young man. It wouldn't surprise me if he did. I don't know necessarily. Bob Stoops has never struck me as a guy that is just completely obsessed, though. He seems to be a pretty balanced individual. He made a big deal when he was at Oklahoma, even though that's a premier job with a lot of pressure, a lot of responsibility, long hours are needed, that he brought a pretty balanced perspective and approach to the job. He would allow the coaches to bring their families to practice, and they would have family days and that sort of thing. He was very family oriented. And now that he's made this decision, you know, I don't know Bob Stoops, and I don't know to get into the hearts and minds of individuals to know what drives them. So I'm just speaking off the cuff in regards to how I've perceived him to be. It doesn't seem like it's just an all-encompassing, consuming passion for him to get back into coaching. Because let's see, it's been now 3 seasons that he's been out. But we've seen it before. Let's see. I'm trying to think who we've seen leave the coaching ranks for this kind of time. Obviously, Mac Brown would be the biggest example recently. He was gone for 6 years. But that generally doesn't happen.
Well, I mean, and that was kind of my feeling too, but when he took that general manager job in the XFL, it kind of made me get the impression that he's kind of itching to get back into the game. So, you know, it's kind of a crapshoot because, you know, your points, you know, are exactly right. However, you know, there are, you know, people who I know who are associated with Notre Dame are saying, you know, hey, that would be their first choice if Brian Kelly were to leave. And I'm just thinking, you know, he just retired from Oklahoma. Why on earth would he take a pressure job, a more pressure job in Notre Dame? So, but anyway, I just think it would be good to see him back in the game. You know, it's just good to have those big name coaches in the game. I could maybe possibly see him going to Iowa if Kirk Ferentz were to retire. You know, I know that is his alma mater. But you know, I'm just trying to figure out if there's maybe a way he would come back. So my next question then would be, you know, do you think who would be like the next big name coach, you know, at a job right now who would be like the top candidate for an elite job? I mean, would you think it would be Luke Fickell, PJ Fleck, Matt Campbell? Who do you think?
Well, you hit 3 of them right there. Very well done, because we already know that Luke Fickell was offered the Michigan State job. He's done a great job at Cincinnati. They were only a 4-win team, and he's lifted them to 10 and 11 win seasons. PJ Fleck, of course, now he's on his 2nd job, where he has lifted a program that was somewhat in the dumps to a level that we have not seen, at least for 1 season at Minnesota. Again, we're going to have to see it consistently. And PJ Fleck, certainly a guy that I got to think that because of his personality, that a lot of programs and a lot of administrations would not be, that would not necessarily be their cup of tea, but others would be totally turned on to the PJ Fleck enthusiasm and sales job. Matt Campbell has obviously done a fine job at Iowa State. It'll be interesting to see if he can lift it. So he's hit a ceiling now for 3 years. Once he's reached that 8-5 level, what have we seen now for 3 consecutive years? I think 8-5, 7-6. But it's still been good enough, I think, for him to gain a lot of. I thought he was going to be in line for the Florida State job. Let's see, anybody else out there that's a high riser?
Mark Stoops, maybe.
Sure.
Scott Satterfield, maybe.
Yeah, good call.
Maybe
I
like Satterfield a little more. He's more offensive minded. Stoops, you know, is a really good defensive developer, good defensive recruiter. I would just like to see him recruit and develop a quarterback a little bit better. Because, you know, quarterback play has been a huge downfall for UK football. They've had a really good running game these last few years, really good offensive line play too. But again, you know, they need that quarterback in college football. You need to have that good quarterback. As far as other coaches, I don't know.
You're throwing them out one step ahead of me. You're hitting everybody that I was going to name. So well done there. Who else? Is there anybody else that's a high riser?
I can't really think off the top of my head right now either.
You know, it looked like Jeff Brown might be, but again, they obviously had to step back last year.
Mm-hmm. Right. There's going to be some very big jobs available potentially here soon, and
there always
you're going to see some shuffling. But I just think it's something fun to talk about. Something me and friends might get together. You know, especially yesterday with the holiday. we just get together, talk a little baseball, talk college football mostly, and really itching to get back. Can't wait for the game to get back. That way we can just stop talking about the what ifs, and just get back to playing and having fun. And that way we can have a pleasant distraction from all the chaos that's going on in the country right now. So I'm going to get off here. Appreciate you taking my call, and I'm looking forward to all these future shows.
I hear you, Rod. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Yeah, quite a list he put together in regards to coaches that have done an outstanding job where they are and could be making that next jump. Mark Stoops, Matt Campbell, Scott Satterfield, only one season, but look what he did at App State. Luke Fickell, of course, was offered the Michigan State job. Michigan State fans, unfortunately, I don't know if you can feel really good about your program right now. Luke Fickell turned down that job for a reason. That is going to be a tough place to win in that division. Mark Antonio, what he accomplished there, we haven't seen it. And now it's a better Big Ten and it's a better division. So tough go possibly for Michigan State, and they've got to face a daunting schedule this year. Getting a lot of commitment news from Swampy McGee. Love to see it. 2024 star wide receiver Josh Downs commits to UNC. Jordan, most interesting Big 12 team no one's talking about is Kansas State. We might have to talk some Kansas State football. We'll get on them. If you're just talking about kind of those sleepers, like a Kansas State, like a Cal. How about Cal? How about North Carolina, of course? Not necessarily a sleeper. We're expecting them to compete in that division. But I'm intrigued, of course. I say this all the time, and I'm sure Luke Walker loves it. North Carolina intrigues me. I can't wait for their 2 non-conference games if we get to see them play against UCF and Auburn. Tennessee, intriguing to see if they can elevate. Justin Wilcox can flat out coach. Add him, Rod. Add Justin Wilcox to your list. That guy can flat out coach. Interesting little side note there from Michael Atencio. Only conference to finish 1, 2, 3 in the AP poll, 1971. Of course, that was the game of the century between Nebraska and Oklahoma. Colorado at number 3 with, Colorado's coach went on to coach the New England Patriots. Why can't I? Oh, my word. I'm getting old. Can't remember his name. Not Ron Meyer. The coach before that. Was it Chuck Fairbanks? The Colorado coach who went on to coach the Patriots. Anyway. Best receiving core in the country. UNC, you got Daz Newsome, De'Ami Brown, Bo Corrales. I like Auburn's potentially. Alabama and LSU are obviously high. Ohio State. The teams that could really use an upgrade that are looking to make a college football playoff at wide receiver would be Penn State and Oregon. They need their wide receivers to step up. Thank you. Yeah, Chuck Fairbanks. I said his name. Yeah, it took me a minute there. Ron Meyer, of course, was there at New England. And Pete Carroll. People sometimes forget that Pete Carroll won playoff games with the New England Patriots just prior to the guy they've got now. I was asked the other day what I would do with my channel if there was no college football this fall. I think we would have to play a virtual season. We would do that. We would talk week to week like there was actually games. We would say, okay, these were the games that were played. We're going to do a live stream, and we're going to talk about the games, and I'm going to tell you who won the games. And you guys can argue with me and say they wouldn't have won. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Or we may cover the NFL. You guys have any requests for content? I love diving into history, and I get a lot of compliments, and I appreciate those compliments that I receive for the national championship replays. But the problem is nobody watches them. They get like 200 views, so that's not keeping us going. Speaking of which, if you own a business that is related to college football or a college football fan base at all, or you know of anyone who owns a business that would like to sponsor, we certainly are well beyond sponsorship numbers here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. I've looked it up, I've done the research on YouTube, and we are far beyond the place in which we should be able to get sponsorships. But the difference between being popular enough to have the numbers to draw the sponsors and actually going out and getting the sponsors themselves are two different things. And I'm not one to go out and get sponsors. I have no idea where to start, and I'm not a salesman. Oh man, every time we strike up a live stream and I hear from you guys, it gives me about 48 different ideas for videos that I need to work on. I should start ranking players, shouldn't I? I should do a top 10 list, quarterbacks, running backs. Man, I must be slacking off. I'm just not the worker that I used to be during these off seasons. I used to bring you my conference rankings based on all the results from the previous season. I used to give you top 10 at each position. All right, maybe that's what I'll do. I'll get off here and get to work. Again, be looking out for a collaboration between myself, and I will not quite announce this yet, just because we need to let the ink dry. But it should be a great time and a great segment that we have planned for each and every week with, again, another YouTuber here. That should be a whole lot of fun. All right, I appreciate it. Again, we're trying to build something here. I hope that you've caught the vision. And if you have, please support us in any way that you possibly can. Like the videos, hit the like button, share the videos on social media, because you reach people on social media that I don't. So they will never know that we're here without your help. So please share the videos on social media, like and comment below. And of course, we would appreciate your financial contributions at Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, any of those, Mark Rogers TV. And of course, the super chat right here. And Jake, thank you so much. Cubs fan Jake, thank you for the super chat contribution tonight. It's always appreciated. For us to go full time, we have to expand revenue streams and find many more to make this the channel that it could possibly be one day. That's the vision. We need revenue. All right, we appreciate it. Go back and watch what you missed if you're joining us late. And I will see everyone with more videos coming your way tomorrow. And if we don't go live tomorrow, we will certainly be back on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time with Florida State Seminoles Live. See y'all soon. Boom. NBA fan, Seth, thank you so much. If only everybody did that. 20,000 subscribers. Thanks, NBA fan. Appreciate it. Swampy McGee, 1971 was the first time the two teams from the same conference topped the final poll, and it remains as the only time that a conference hit the top three. Yes, we talked about that. I do remember that, but that slipped my mind. So thanks, Swampy McGee, again, for your information. Swampy McGee has become the unofficial research department here at the Voice of College Football. $28.80, thank you, sir. Rod, you as well. Everybody else, I see Cheryl on the line. David's on the line. BW, thank you so much. Jordan, you guys are fantastic. I appreciate you jumping on anytime we do a live stream. Luke, of course. If you'd like to join our exclusive, I see Luke's name, and it reminded me because Luke joined us for our exclusive live stream last Thursday night. If you would like to take part in the exclusive live stream where you come on and talk college football directly with me, just let us know down in any of the comments sections of any of the videos. Just say, I'm interested, and we will be in touch for an exclusive live stream that we will do on Thursday night. Thursday night exclusive live stream for the third straight week, starring you. You produce the show. I talk about whatever you want to talk about. And we've got 4 or 5 other college football fans on, and it is a good time. Cubs fan, thank you so much. It's got the vision. Thanks, Jake. Appreciate that. Cubs, the only thing I've got against you is you had to win in 2016, didn't you? That was the year not to win. Any other year I would have been rooting for you any other year, but not in 2016. But it's all right, Jake. Swampy McGee, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Good stuff. See you guys soon. Check out the content. We've got videos rolling out each and every day, and more are coming. Believe me. See you soon.